The Connect 360, where we show you how to grow your life and grow yourself real quickly. Yes, this is the spot where we tune you in and where you can grow your relationships, grow your game, and grow your business all at the same time. We bring professional authors, business owners, comedians, entertainers, just about anybody who's hustling and producing results. And we're going to show you how to create the solutions so that you can be able to apply it to your life and have fun at the same time. So you're in the right place. So just get tuned in or get left behind.
Mission in motion with the business radicals. The hottest mastermind group online. Watch live 360 marketing makeovers. The Connect 360 show. Make sure you share this video now. Share the live video now. Share the video now and enter your chance to win with the business radicals. The Connect 360 show.
And we are live. We live?
Yes, we are.
We are live in the place with the Connect 360. And I am your platform partner. Yes, your hustling homie, Jackson, all about making things happen. And today we have a great, awesome show that we're about to get into just for you. So, also, you see I got my co-host with the most on the ones and twos. We got J360 in the building.
What's going on, everyone? We're going to have a hot show. Got our brother Jason Black calling in. The film Gentrification will be at the Harold Washington Cultural Center February 18th, 6 o'clock.
We have the, we got the contest every week where we have a new guest that comes on the show every single week. If you're an entrepreneur or you're a person that just has goals and dreams and you want to be on the show and you want to experience the radical business brainstorm and the marketing makeovers, make sure you hit us on the inboxes so that you can be entered to win to be one of our next guests on that show. Also, we want to show love to some of our sponsors that are on the show. That sponsor us. We want to shout out the Fresh Air Network, of course.
Make sure you like the page, Fresh Air Network, Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
We also want to show love to our sponsors with the cultureconnection360.com. They show us a lot of love. That's why you can go there and get all sorts of cultural Oasis needs, everything you need.
Chicago Luxury Motors. So one of the only black-owned Chicago dealerships in Chicago. Car dealerships.
Yes, indeed. As well as we want to make sure we also shout out virginandremyhair.com, where they make sure that not only do they take care of the outside of your hair, but they make sure they work with hairstylists that help you with your own natural hair as well and help you grow your hair businesses. So we just want to show love to everybody. And it's really important that we build black business right now because there's a lot of changes going on. First, before we even get into bringing our guest on, I just want to talk about some stuff I'm experiencing. So I'm noticing these tickets all over the city, especially on the south side. I almost feel like people are being targeted for tickets. Like I've got over $2,000 in parking tickets.
So you're on the boot list?
Nah, I've paid my tickets. I made sure I paid.
Pay those tickets. They targeted you.
Man, I got tired of waiting in those long lines down there at the DMV, man.
Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous. You were telling me today. You said you saw some.
Yeah, I saw some crazy action. I saw other wiping the snow off the window to, check, I guess, stickers or whatever,
Going above and beyond to give out the tickets.
Going above and beyond,
It's all, to me, it's all about a propaganda machine. I think most people, their behavior is really ruled by what are they consuming every single day. What is the information that you're digesting? Is it, because most people listen to the media.
Right.
And whoever's controlling the media, they controlling what people think.
They control the thought process.
It's all
propaganda.
So, we don't have, in terms of the black community, there's not a big representation of a black narrative consistently. So that's why I'm happy we even have films like this, films like The Hidden Colors, 1804, films like the Win Like an Immigrant, that we're working on right now. I think it's super important, because 7 a.m., well, how long ago was that when they came out? It was about a year ago?
Year and a half, 2 years ago.
And
if you haven't seen the film, you got to see it. It deals with black business, wealth, building an economy, sustaining the economy, So basically, creating a foundation that we can pass on to the next generations to come. So Gentrified is a film you definitely need to check out. You need to get tickets right now because it's going to be a great event.
And it seems like one thing that's really important when it comes to changing generations and is really about reaching the younger people. Once you reach a certain age, majority of people, they've kind of stuck in their ways, don't really want to do much change. Mm-hmm. If you have children and you really want to get your children tuned in, because they're the ones that's going to really save us and save, they're the future, and then your children's children. And so showing them visuals, showing them films like this one, showing them even shows like this. Because I think the key is that people have to own the information. And what I mean by that is you don't just sit up passively and watch somebody and say, here's the answer to your problems. Other people can help guide you and give you motivation, but education is to pull something from within your own mind that's already there. So you have, not just when you watch films like this or shows like this, pull out notes sometimes. When you hear people dropping statistics, look it up on the internet yourself, and don't just go to one website. Look at 2-3 different sources.
Right. So it can be balanced.
And come to your own conclusion, because now you're not just being brainwashed. Now, instead of the world putting a spell on you, you can now put a spell on the world because you're starting out by putting a spell on yourself.
So Brother Jason will be calling in a couple of minutes, so make sure you share this. Invite your friends, like the Fresh Air Network Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
When we look back on this, we're going to be like, well, if somebody didn't know any better, they're like, well, did the people know this was going on? Why did they let this happen? How long this is going on? But if you have an individual who actually put that in place to say, okay, yeah, they did know what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is how they addressed it. So it doesn't look like, sometimes when we think that we're so much intelligent of the people from the past, but the only reason why we think that we're intelligent is because somebody has wrote books and we've put it in some kind of format to create history.
Right.
So they were doing the same thing back in the Egyptian days and before that, and any of those dynasty days. Be a researcher. Get the movie. Look at it for the first time as a fan. Second time, look at it as a like a new fan. Mm-hmm. And then the third time, be a researcher. Mm-hmm. After you be a researcher, then you start to become a teacher of it, hopefully.
And I think it's really important on what you said about the power of history, because I think if you want to make, you got to know where you went wrong so you don't continue to make, because history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't know history, we're going to end up falling for the same okie doke, right? It's like the people that tend to rule the world, they are masters of deception and creating history. And, like, for example, Black Wall Street. Some people think, well, if black people were to build an economy, right, then it would be torn down like like Tulsa, Oklahoma was. Mm-hmm. But what people also sometimes forget when they look at that history is that there were some holes in their game that we can potentially learn from, is my whole point.
And just the fact that it was done.
And the fact that it was done, so we see that it could be duplicated and made better. I mean, if you look at something as simple as an ant, an ant, if you kick down their anthill, they're going to rebuild. They're going to find another place. You put your foot down, they're going to go around you.
Automatically.
And as humans, sometimes we see the opposite thing happen. We see somebody get hurt or their anthill kicked down, and now we're afraid to rebuild another anthill because we're afraid that, we don't want to feel that pain again.
Mm-hmm. Share this.
And I'm going to encourage people, like if you're in Chicago especially, get out the house and move around and change your environment. Because sometimes you may not know what even is going on around you because you're just in the house going to work all day and you're so in tune with your world.
Pay attention.
And you're not totally paying attention with what's going on right up in your neighborhood or a block away, or, especially in Chicago because it's so segregated. So one thing I'm going to give people a piece of a game is that if you go on eventbrite.com, Eventbrite is a website you can go onto to find local events, free events. Like, for example, there was a free event going on in Chinatown today, like a business networking event. They serve food and all that good stuff. All you have to do is RSVP for free. You go to the event and you get to see what's going on in Chinatown, another culture, and you can build relationships with folks that can contribute, And I think when you don't do that, sometimes we're stuck in the house, and then we can't create the solutions that we need.
Some of these areas that we talk about would have been gentrified a little bit faster if the Olympics had came here. And the fact that that same progress,
the Olympics would have came here,
it'd have been all over. All of this would have been
Chicago for real.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like Atlanta.
When Atlanta, my brother lived there, of course,
right.
and they came and they just reinvented the whole downtown and the Atlanta area. So I want to tell you that gentrification is put in place based off of reasons that sometimes we don't necessarily know.
Remind me of people like in Bronzeville, which is where we're at right now. They see the Marianos pop up, and you say, "Oh, they fixing the neighborhood. We got a new Whole Foods.
This is cute.
This is amazing. They
You
celebrating.
about to get moved out.
You know, exactly. And you don't see the bigger play. You know, it's interesting to look at the mindset, most of the white culture, especially because I was talked about this on the last show. I just recently went to Jamaica. I met some guys that were there from Manchester.
Okay.
I said, "Hey, what brings y'all here?" Immediately he said, just a business trip. We're kind of taking a vacation with the family, but, I'm just looking at opportunities. If I was to ask some other people that maybe look more like me, sometime the answer would have been, I'm on vacation. But the mindset of some people in white culture is everything is business, right? Even when they're on vacation, they're looking, how can we turn this into something, right? Even if they're in your neighborhood, in your store, you think they just chilling with you, but sometimes their mind is on a conquering mindset, like how can we exploit this and flip it and make it our own,
or just outright take over,
or outright just take over,
push you out.
So it's about us also having an agenda mindset.
Yes.
When you go to watch a movie like this, are you going to be entertained, or do you have an agenda? Are you leaving with an assignment in mind, right? Are you saying to yourself, okay, but this is what I want to get from this? Even if you don't get that, at least you setting yourself up with trying to get or give something when you go to these events, having some type of an agenda. And not a personal agenda. I mean, you can start with a personal agenda, but eventually we want to have a group, some type of group agenda, a code that says, is what I'm doing right now going to be beneficial to my family and my community? Did you hear the interview with Trump? What I forget the guy's name that was sitting with Trump that was lying. The black guy. He was saying that
Ben Carson.
No, the dude, the pastor.
All the top gang leaders.
Yeah, he was talking about how he spoke with the gang thugs in Chicago.
I heard you was one of them.
But the funny part about it, Trump was like, well, look, tell them that they need to fix it or we're going to fix it.
Right.
And with that, and you could just tell by his tone,
yes,
what he meant by that they coming regardless.
They want this. They want this to be the example. Right. They want this to be the example. And straight up.
And gentrified.
Yeah, my cell phone, my ringtone has been gentrified. Jason.
Yes.
How you doing? This is Jackson, by the way, and I'm sitting here with also it's three of us. It's Jackson, then we got Justice, and we also have Kavan in here. How you feeling, brother?
I'm busy right now. I'm on the road between Houston and Shreveport, so I'm sorry about the delay.
What would you say is your experience with getting, especially black people, on the same page? What's your experience been with that, with getting people on one agenda, a small group, to actually execute and get something done?
Well, that has been the biggest issue, the biggest difficulty that you'll have is getting people on the same page about things. That's one of the things that the film deals with, is the fact that in some cases, a lot of black folk feel we have better things to do. It is much easier to get people organized for a music concert or something else.
I'm curious with this, because what I've noticed is with any culture or any organization, to get people on the same page, there needs to be a system of reprimand, right? There needs to be some type of consequences if you're not in unity. What do you think about how do we reward certain people for being who support the black community? Because what I noticed is, for example, you got a person like Jim Brown who's done a lot of work for the community, but then we'll see him do a Trump photo shoot, and we get mad at him. But what are we doing as a community to really support him when he's sticking our neck out to help us? So what do you think about rewarding each other, or even reprimanding each other.
Definitely, you cannot have a system of discipline unless there is a system of benefit and punishment. You have to be able to reward the people who do the right thing, and you have to be able to punish those who go against the interest of the group. What happens is we have, in the system of white supremacy that we live in, they have a system of rewards and punishment. They benefit the individuals who do what they say and go along to get along for your own self-interest against the interest of the group. And in black society, we need the same. In Latino society, they have that. In Asian society, they have that. If you're an individual who pursues your own personal interest to the detriment of the group, then you find yourself being punished. In black society, we need that because we have a culture that says, do for self, it's all about me, get in where you fit in, every man for himself, I'm going for mine, and that's not going to work, because it would be different if we were a bunch of individuals going up against another group of individuals, but we're not. We are part of a group collective going up against other group collectives, and that is what we're fighting against. That is what we're squaring off against, not individuals versus individuals. So this idea that you can be by yourself and it doesn't matter what happens to anyone else, that's the problem, because white society comes after us as an organized group. They come after us as an organized collective. They don't come after us as individuals. So that is what we have to start doing, is getting together as a group, starting with the economic, and then everything else builds from there. But yes, we have to be able to reward people and punish individuals for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Absolutely. But that takes discipline and a will. We can't have this idea that everybody can do what they want to, because that is the enemy of discipline. Everybody cannot do what they want to do. You have to ask yourself, is this in the group's best interest? If the answer is yes, you go forward. If the answer is no, or I'm not sure, then you have to halt right where you are.
What do you think are some of the ways that we can use and create our own propaganda in media, and your opinion from a media person, and how can we use it? Because some people will say, like, okay, well, you made 7 a.m. and maybe we should have seen a big change from that. Like, so what would you say, like, ways on why we should keep making films, and how do we win the propaganda media war?
Well, I don't necessarily think that we should, quote unquote, keep making films necessarily. We definitely want to have media. That is a mass communication system. Look, we're just getting into the game 200 years later, okay? We haven't really had a black organism as far as communication is concerned. So without that, no, we have not been conversing with each other as black people. We've been conversing with each other as tools of white servitude, but we have not been conversing with each other to say, hey, let's discuss a black agenda. That's not a conversation that has been taking place for the last 200 years. We were talking about emancipation. We were talking about desegregation. We were talking about integration and civil rights. We were not talking about what is the black agenda. When I said before that we're the only group of people who were brought to America who are not immigrants, what that really means is that we were the only people who ended up here without an agenda. We are part of someone else's agenda. Other people who crossed the border from Mexico, he's got a Mexican agenda. Asians who come here, he's got a Chinese agenda, a Japanese agenda. What is the black agenda for being here? You're standing in Chicago, you're standing in New York, you're standing in D.C. What is your purpose for standing there? That's when you get to an agenda. The other reason we haven't been able to discuss that is because you haven't actually had a black agenda discussed by your black media, because for the last 30 years you have not had a black media. You have had a white catering media is what you had. You have not actually had a black one. We don't have one because those individuals are, for the most part, looking for a job. Over there at TV1, Roland Martin wants his job at CNN back. So he was dancing with Hillary Clinton, literally. He was doing everything except discussing what black people need, because he was not trying to do what was in black people's best interest. He was trying to deliver the black vote to Hillary in hope that he would get a job if she was elected president. And this happens everywhere. what good does it do you to have a black media if all they're going to do is exactly what the white one's been doing? So that's where what we're doing becomes key. But beyond just making films, making videos, and having podcasts or whatever, we need to have a situation where we take this to the street. And that's where what I do differs. There's nobody else out there who holds these types of events. They're not films for me, they're events. There's nobody else out there who holds these and then says, okay, we're going to have 2 hours after the movie is over so we can all discuss how are we going to execute and implement what we just talked about. That's what makes what I do differently. At every single screening I'm having, just like with 7 a.m., we will allow it so that you got time after the film is over to talk about, okay, here's what we're going to do with what we just saw and just heard about for the previous 2 hours. Because at the end of the day, this has got to be about where the rubber meets the road, not just getting people's attention, but saying, okay, now that I got your attention, what are you going to do with what you just heard?
So what would you say for somebody else that really wants to get things done? Because a lot of times we have people in the community, they're easy. They start, but they don't finish projects or they procrastinate. So what piece of advice would you give to somebody that's really have a challenging task and they want to finish projects?
Well, we have a lot of con artists out there, if we can just be totally honest, and people need to learn how to identify them. If you're serious, you get things done. If you're not serious, you come up with a hustle and try to grab a bunch of money as quickly as you can. That's essentially one of the real problems we've been witnessing and having. And there are a lot of them out there using these mediums to pay their child support, to pay for vehicles, to rent vehicles so they can start the process all over again. So people have to be very, very exact with the people that we deal with. You're going to have to start talking to them to make sure that they actually know something as opposed to bending your ear and entertaining. I spend a fair amount of my time saying things that I know will offend people because I want to shake off the people looking to be entertained. Get away from the people who want to entertain you. Those are your con artists. The people who want to inform you, those will be very easy to spot as long as you are not looking to be entertained. That's the difference.
So how do you feel like entrepreneurship as a whole, or is it even important for gentrifying or even taking care of ourselves?
As you all know, as students of Dr. Claude Anderson, you understand that racism is not a social issue. Racism is an economic issue. And one of the evils that we have suffered as black people is that we have become deluded into thinking that racism is a social issue, getting people to like us. All of our problems we're describing are economic. That's how you sustain yourself in this world. And what we need to focus on is perfecting our economic agenda because that is what will power everything else. Look, the police hate you because you're black, but they're able to victimize you because you're poor. The schools hate you because you're black, but they're able to victimize you because you're poor. Your job hates you because you're black. They're able to victimize you because you're poor. You start to see a pattern here. You can't control whether people like you, nor should you be concerned about that. We let this guy fool us into believing that the issue is getting people to like us. If they like us, they'll stop mistreating us. The problem with that is somebody might like you, wake up in the morning, and despise you at noontime. You can't live your life based upon whether people like you. You have to live your life based upon, look, I'm going to do what I need to do, but I need to make sure that I am protected from you just in case you decide you don't like me after going to Chipotle. That's what we need to be focused on. How do we get ourselves powerful enough that the people who don't like us cannot harm us? Because we're sitting up here trying to integrate. All of our conversations revolve around integration of some kind, usually sexual access outside of the black community. And we've been chasing that so much that we lost sight of survival. So that is what we need to focus on. These are economic problems that manifest themselves across several different spectrums. But these are actually economic issues. So it's going to start with the financial movers. It's going to start with people who build economies. That is what this is all about. It's going to start with them, and in a lot of ways, it's going to finish with them.
What has the experience been like just overall developing this film, in terms of challenges, concerns, or just anything that you learned that you weren't even expecting to learn when you first start filming this?
Well, first of all, when I started doing this film, I was under the impression that this would be a more localized issue in a lot of regards. I thought, like a lot of people, that this was just a major metropolitan issue. And one of the things I learned was that, no, that's not what it is. It is happening literally everywhere. I knew it was widespread, but as far as the idea that this is something that's happening everywhere, that was new. But the other thing is that it's happening for a reason. A lot of people are simply not taking regard to this. They're not taking it into account. They're just not. And with that being the case, now we have to deal with this from a perspective of, okay, who is serious about survival? Because these are survival issues we're talking about here. Who is actually interested in surviving? And who is sitting up here saying to themselves, you know what, I'm ready to die? Because that's something else that we are going to have to take into account. There are a lot of black folk here that they have just given up on the idea of survival. Can we be just very, very honest about that? I want to explain something to you here. One of the things that became clear to me was that what we're doing should have a lot more widespread appeal. Simply because if we took a project like this into white society or Asian society, man, we would have tens of thousands of people lined up. We'd be sold out for months at a stretch. As it stands, we got to jump up and down, kick, fight, and scream to get noticed, in limited areas, in limited ways. Well, I'm saying that this should be some blockbuster stuff that we're dealing with. But it's not. And the reason that while it's successful and it's done a lot better than a lot of previous efforts have, the reason why it hasn't really reached that bigger level it needs to is because, in all honesty, most black people as a group have simply become so accustomed to suffering as a condition of living that they're not really trying to escape the plantation. They're just trying to make themselves more comfortable in the slave quarters. I did 7 a.m., and I did this project for a specific type of black person. The black person who does not want to spend the rest of their life eating scrap. Because that is what slavery was about. Slavery was about determining who will eat the finest cut and who's going to end up eating the crumbs and the scrap. And there are a bunch of black people as a group who have decided, you know what, as long as I got a cell phone and can listen to Beyonce wiggle on a stage or something, I'm good. I'll spend the rest of my life desiring. And who cares if I don't have a decent place to live or a place to live at all, which is where we're going. So this is about the people who have standards versus those who don't, plain and simple. In Chicago right now, you have a tremendous problem with that. Even though it's very clear by looking at the downtown area, North Lake Shore, South Lake Shore, it's very clear looking at Chinatown and its expansion into 2nd Street. It's very clear around the stadiums, White Sox and whatnot, that these people are making moves. They're building up for the next 100 years, and a lot of black folk, when you drive around there, they're not doing anything. They're not even trying to get their own personal credit score together. Then you talk about owning something, and then their eyes start glazing over, and they start looking bored. Those are the people that we have to separate ourselves from. And if it's only 3 or 4 of us in a room, so be it. If it's the 3 or 4 who are going to get something done, I would rather have Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Mark Zuckerberg. Those 3 people, I'd rather have those 3 guys than to have 3 billion people who aren't going to do anything.
Where can they get tickets to see the screening of Gentrify? It's going to be
you can go to our website.
Okay.
On our website, you can go to youwillbemoved.org. That's youwillbemoved.org. You can go ahead and click on where it says tickets, and you can definitely do that. In New York, we're pretty much sold out at this point. So for everybody, that's the only screening this week. The rest of them will be next week. I'll advise people to not dally around about it. And furthermore, more than anything else, this is not a ticket to see a movie. This is a opportunity for you to get with other black people who understand what the problem is. I want people to bring their A game, so you're going to be talking to other people and say, hey, I live in Chicago. They're selling properties up here. The city is trying to unload properties for $1, $20, whatever. Who in here has got their money together so we can take a look at getting some lots And then who's got money after that so that we can do what the other folks are doing and developing it. But that is what you're having an opportunity to do here. Nobody else brings you together for that. We are. The last event that I did in Chicago was Black Empowerment 1. That was in 2015. We had representatives from Seaway Bank there. That's not going to be an option this time. If that doesn't tell you how critical the situation is, nothing else will. So go to youwillbemoved.org. The time to talk is over. The people who are serious, you know, your HBCU students, and nothing's been happening on campus, the people who want to find out where the serious black people are, they will be at this event. For everybody else, don't get a ticket. I don't want you there. Just sit there at your house till the eviction notice and the bulldozers show up.
How's the response been from the billboards? Because you have a billboard here in Chicago right off the Dan Ryan Expressway, and then I know you also have them, you know, across the nation. So what kind of response is it? Like a shock, or are people intrigued? You know, how's that been going as far as the billboards?
Well, there have been a lot of people intrigued about it. I've gotten a lot of response. I've gotten a lot of emails. I've gotten a lot of private messages about it. So it's definitely gotten people noticed. It's definitely gotten their attention. That part is okay. The problem that I have is that in many regards, a lot of these people are asking it from an entertainment perspective.
Okay.
They're asking it from an entertainment position. This isn't about entertaining. This is about, do you understand that black people are being removed from Chicago? Do you understand that black people are being expelled from Chicago? Do you understand that's what's going on? I had people sitting up here, they were laughing and playing and joking about it, and I'm like, you don't get it. You're exactly the people that they're going after. So has there been a good response about it? There's been a lot of response about it. What I haven't seen as much of out of Chicago, and this does happen in a lot of these larger areas, I have not seen as much of the seriousness and the urgency. Let's be very clear. It shouldn't take 5 or 6 films. It shouldn't take 5 or 6 trips. It shouldn't take 20 or 30 things like that to happen. I understand we've been living under the gun for a long time, but it shouldn't take 10 or 12 times the people tap you on the shoulder. When you get up every day, you should know about that. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, that sounds surreal to say that, by the way, but the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has been putting up nonstop tweets about how much he doesn't like Chicago and what he's going to do to Chicago. Now, if that alone should have places like the Harold Washington packed for weeks, instead, folks want to show up to see stage plays and stuff. So if they think that stage plays are the answer, if they think that being entertained is the answer, if they think that looking for something to make them smile is the answer, I'll skip this event and I'll go get some Jordans. You know what? You go ahead and you do that. Because I remember another city that the last project I put out, I couldn't move a single ticket in that city. It was Baltimore. Baltimore, wow. Maryland. Wow. I'll never forget it because Baltimore didn't think that economics was the answer. Baltimore thought that 7 a.m. was boring. The very next year, Freddie Gray got killed. Right after that, Corin Gaines got killed, and you couldn't even put the cops in jail with a black prosecutor going after them. They're the ones going after the prosecutor. Now they've been put on notice it's open season. Now you got Ray Lewis cooning and buffooning in front of the cameras. Now black folk in Baltimore are like, whoa, we're in big trouble. Well, you're going to be in big trouble because you didn't think economics was the answer. You thought something else was. Now it's too late. So we're going to find out here on the 18th whether Chicago thinks that economics is the answer, that religion and politicians and chasing degrees, that hasn't worked, that it's time to get serious about economics and building a real economy, not a hustler economy, not a player economy, not a fooling around economy, a owning real estate, owning assets, competing with whites and Asians, not competing with your bum cousin and your bum uncle, competing with the people who are trying to remove you. If we're going to find out who really believes that's the answer and who believes that buying shoes and hanging out with their girlfriends and just waiting for their moment to die is the answer. That's what we're about to find out.
You know what? I saw one of our viewers, they just left in the chat room. They had one last question from Sylvia Donald. She asked, she said, do you think that the media portrayal of the Chicago violence, do you think that is being used to get people to want to voluntarily leave the city?
No, that is not what's happening at all, because you have black folk up in Chicago who have money and have neighborhoods, middle-class neighborhoods there. So it's not the media that is the problem. The problem is that the black folk who have their economic situation together are a woeful minority. And they'll be sitting up here telling everybody else everything's fine. So it's not that the media says everything's gone to hell and black folk believe it. It's the black folks sitting next to us in church and in school saying, don't listen to that Jason Black. Everything is fine. Everything's okay. Don't worry. He's just being an alarmist. We're not getting pushed out of Chicago. Yeah, there's some tough times, but if you keep your head low and pray to Jesus, everything will be all right. So, no, it's not the media doing this. This is a matter of black folks perpetuating this among ourselves, that we need more prayer, that we need more degrees, that we need more Barack Obama, because he did such a great job in Chicago, and then as president, right? He did such a wonderful job. We need the next Obama or the next Hillary Clinton or the first Hillary Clinton. So that's what the real issue is. The media is not the problem. The problem is that black people as a group are not serious about an economic agenda. That is the problem. And that starts at the dinner table. That does not start with the media. That starts at the dinner table. That starts with your mom and your dad. That starts with your brothers and your sisters. That starts with your friends and your associates. That starts with what you value as a person. Do you want a life worth living, or are you okay eating the scraps? That starts with you. Do you want to have a stable financial situation so that everything's not a crisis? In black society, we constantly live in crisis mode. We go from one crisis to another without ever actually resolving the crisis. At what point do we stop living in crisis and trying to manage crisis and get to a point where we eliminate the crisis altogether? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm fixated on. What do we do to make sure that we're not in crisis about where we live, how we live, what we eat, can we eat, who's going to jail us, who's going to shoot at us at the police department and let them get away with it, who's going to victimize us in the court system, what politicians are going to go after us? At what point do we get past that? And in places that have strong black populations, these shouldn't even be issues, but they're issues because at our core, as a group, in our home, we're not serious about building families. Thus, we're not serious about building assets for the future. Thus, you're not serious about building a community because you don't have one. So my answer to that would be, no, the media plays a very small part of this. It's what we're not doing in our homes every single day that is keeping us in these desperate, dire straits. That's what's keeping it.
I have a question real quick. Can you tell us any win stories or places that you've been that you see that they've gotten it, organizations that you've worked with or continue to work with that has given you hope?
Well, I don't operate on hope. The last president sold us a bunch of that, and we see how that turns out for black people. I operate on results.
Okay.
You want to know where black people are doing it right? Let me see. Where black people are doing it right. Yeah. If I find that, I'll do a film about it.
What would you call it?
When I find them, I'll let the rest of you know. Because right now, as a group, it ain't happening.
Because one thing I do know is that one day, regardless of changes like this, it didn't happen overnight. You know, even white supremacy, that's an everyday thing that's been going on for over 100 years. So some of the changes, they get out of it. Some of that, will take. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. So I just appreciate you making this film, even for the younger people, and our future generations, to be able to build on what the actions we're doing and watch this record.
I also did this as a historical marker because I don't want people to be able to look back in 20, 30 years when black folk have been reduced in Chicago, eliminated from Harlem, removed from D.C., and pushed out of Atlanta. I don't want anybody to be able to look back and say, we didn't know. We didn't see it. Nobody told us. We weren't aware. You had great big billboards on the biggest freeways in America calling attention to this. So it wasn't a matter that you didn't know. It wasn't a matter that you weren't told. It wasn't a matter that you weren't aware. It wasn't a matter that there wasn't any call to action. It wasn't that we didn't try hard enough. It was just that you didn't think that this was an issue. And if you didn't think it was an issue, then by all means, annihilation is waiting. But most black people do not believe that the stakes are life and death. I did this film so that your children will be able to see. Among all the people who lied to you most, your parents lied to you the worst because they knew that these were problems. How many of you have uncles and fathers and mothers who owned houses and either got a drug habit or got off with some no-good lover they weren't supposed to be with, or just decided, what do I need to do with that? I'll take the money and run. And now you need some real estate. You need some tangible assets, and you don't have them. And those people are now going to tell you, well, you see, I couldn't do anything because, well, the white folks were keeping me from doing stuff. Okay, did they make you sell the house? Did they make you give it away? Did they make you get a drug habit and lose that? What did they do? Because a bunch of you are going to be looking at prime real estate in Chicago here in 10 years saying, you know what? My family used to own that land that's worth $1 million today. And I wanted to have a record of that so that the children and grandchildren can see you didn't just wake up one morning like this. You got help.
So, Brother Jason, if people wanted to hear more of what you have to say, what channels can they find you on? I know you have the Black Authority on YouTube. Is that also where can they find you?
Well, if they want to find me, they can listen to the YouTube videos, I suppose. But I want to introduce you to a new idea tonight. It might be time to stop talking. It may be time to have a situation where, you know what, you found everybody who's going to get up and do something. And you just got to go forward with them. And everybody else stay where they are. So at this point here, I want to make it a situation where it's like, you know what, I'll see you on the 18th. And everybody who's not there, proceed with your regularly scheduled day as already in progress.
Okay, we hear that. We hear that. So February 18th, Chicago, the premiere of Gentrified, 6 o'clock at the Harold Washington Cultural Center. Make sure you get your tickets. Okay, appreciate it, brother. Appreciate you being on with us. And we will, share this so you can get your tickets at gentrifiedmovie.com, www.gentrifiedmovie.com.
Yeah, well, I think he brought up some really interesting points I just wanted to touch on real quick as we were wrapping up. One is, I think the power of the last thing he said, which is the power of stop talking and just getting stuff done. Mm-hmm. I think that's super important. I think sometimes we do get caught up in information masturbation.
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis,
Or the fact that we need to have more people to move instead of just like the twos and fews. Maybe it has to be enough sometimes to move. We have to wait. We always waiting on to get the crowd or get a nice group of folks to actually, move on some things. And that's not always the case. It's the right people that's on the task with you that makes things move faster, easier, because y'all all in one accord. So I think that's a good takeaway from him.
I thought it was interesting. He said he couldn't find any success stories.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Actually.
And you know what though? I mean, because I look, my perspective is a little different,
success
but I know what he's
coming.
Now I can understand what he's talking about in terms of the group, like a mass group of people, like definitely. The group of Black Americans and even globally is definitely going backwards.
Can you find any success stories?
This, for example, for what we're doing. I mean, this is a very small group, but if you look at what we're doing, we've shown consistency with this show. This is probably like our 14th episode. 15th. We're bringing entrepreneurs on here every time, building with them, and we're seeing them getting results. So, in my opinion, I think it's progress on a very small level, but you got to start somewhere, and it has to be consistent.
And you have to support films like this, Gentrified, 7 a.m., the Hidden Color series. Brother Tariq has one coming out with 1804.
Yeah.
If you like documentaries like that, or you want more information, check out films like Elementary Genocide, on a health tip, Urban Kryptonite. So you have to support things that are helping you, but that are also entertaining. So these films aren't boring.
And that's
engaging.
Now that's one thing though where my perspective is a little different, and I respect the brother's perspective though, but that's where mine is a little different because yes, we do have too many people. We have a lot of people that just want to be entertained. Sometimes you have to sprinkle in a little bit of entertainment just to grab their attention, especially when you're talking about kids who are going to make the change. So I think it's, this definitely isn't based on just entertainment, but I would say anybody who's creating information or you're in the media, that I would encourage you, it's okay to use some level of entertainment because you got to still know how to engage people because guess what? Right now in social media age, we're all competing for attention. On people's phone, there's constantly something going on that's taking your attention. So all I'm saying is we got to know how to tap into people's psychology.
Well, that's where artistry comes into play. It doesn't have to be straight buffoonery,
right? Definitely
to be entertainment.
It's
the greatest entertainer in the world
was
who? Michael Jackson. I mean, he was entertaining, but he dropped. Certain.
Yeah, he had jewels. He dropped some jewels and some visuals.
So it wasn't just straight foolishness.
And I know quite a few young people, especially, they say that the way that they even learn about black consciousness is through maybe a poem that they've heard or a song or something, and that's what get them to that next level of consciousness with that book, and they can connect it and associate it. Because unfortunately, like one thing he said that was important, but it's just not there, is many of us don't have the family that's at the dinner table to give us the game, and if we do, a lot of us don't respect them, or we don't hear the example. They don't have the example because they're so busy working all the time. So
that's why we need so many other examples. And one of the things that I took away from him is that he's doing it because he knows he has to do it, and that's a different perspective. So I asked that question at the end about the positiveness, and sometimes you want to get across the magnitude on how important this is. So to bring something up that is positive, and he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't see results. I know that. Now, the point being is that we need to have these examples. Doesn't matter if it's, twos and fews. We have to have them because when we was talking about earlier before we came on the show, is that these examples is a format of history. I see the value of people seeing how media and narrating their own story is the way to go. Doesn't matter if one person, two people, or 1,000 people see it.
And you know what's amazing about that? I guess the last thing I'll say about the media is I'm hearing so many people that are using media that are saying that they're getting better responses internationally. Like I got a friend of mine, I was just talking to him, Rashid Sammy. If you're listening, man, much love. Shout out to him. He was telling me how on Facebook they had this ad they were running where like for $1 a day you can get exposed to this international, following. Mm-hmm. And so he said he invested. He started doing like $1 a day. Now he has like 10,000 followers that are international. And he talks about like motivation and tapping into your greatness, but he's getting people from across the world that's tuning in to his page. And sometimes we forget the power of how we can use this media. And sometimes the people that are the furthest away from you might be the people you connect with and build those relationships, and that's what we need.
Or some of the same things that they're going through, we're going through on a bigger scale in Chicago or in these bigger cities. It's just happening probably faster, more prominent, and it's a little bit more sophisticated.
So make sure you tag, invite, if you know anyone who's involved in real estate or business, invite them to the film, share it to their pages. You can come out, bring your solutions or your strategies, to get involved.
And also share this video, and in the comment section, whatever value that you have, or maybe a goal that you're looking to create, you need help with, put that in our comment section, put that in the chat. We want to know what you're doing. We want to know what your skills are, what projects that you can maybe be able to add value to.
What gifts you have.
What gifts you have, exactly. Right. Because this is a community effort, and you don't always need to have, it's all about working with like-minded people, and that's what I like about this platform is we bring those people together. So share this video, put your comments down, and share this video even after it's live. Share it So y'all know what we all about. Yes, we are the Connect 360. We are the business radicals. We do the radical business brainstorms every single week on Wednesdays. We have entrepreneurs on the show. We do the business brainstorms with them. We definitely do a marketing makeover. I mean, this is the place you want to be if you're about doing something and you want to see results. And we like to have fun. It's informal. So as you see, we try not to be overly professional. You can definitely feel comfortable because we just chopping it up like a think tank. And we look at, so be tuned into the next show because you know it's going down. We have one of the #1 Chicago hair salon owners is going to be in next week with Salon Heaven. She's been there for over 10 years, bringing in awesome numbers.
Salon
right there
Heaven?
Downtown Chicago.
Kiki?
Kiki, yes, we got Kiki's coming in next week. You know, we're going to go real deep on the pros and cons of when you're mixing your friends and pleasure with your business. And
every Wednesday
it's going
Fresh Air
down
Network.
next week. Hey, we're going to see y'all. Make sure and shout out to our sponsors one more time, virginandremyhair.com,
Culture Connection, Chicago Luxury Motors, Sankofa Shea,
yes indeed,
Zuri Holistics, Metaphysical Shop.
And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube page as well with Hustler Nation 360, where we always got the motivation for entrepreneurs. Please make sure y'all do that. Y'all can find me, Dr. Jackson 360, across all social media platforms.
Check out theblackmall.com too.
So if they have any questions or comments about some people that want to be on the show, as you can see, they don't necessarily have to be in Chicago. We can still get them on. We can still share their ideas and their concepts.
That's it.
It's a wrap. February 18th. Gentrified.
Get to work, like he said.
Get those tickets.
Let's talk and stop talking and get to work.
Those tickets are moving rapidly. So you know how we do.
As long as you, as a man, lay down at night and dream about your greatness, but you are never able to manifest how great you are. Then the pain of being non-productive makes you seek pleasure that keeps you non-productive. Look at it. Look at it, brothers.
These ideas are now being programmed in your mind, and they empower you every time you hear the word power. In this moment, you realize that you are whole, healthy, wealthy, and strong.
Nobody knows our pain but God and us. And you know deep down inside you are as great as any man of greatness that you heard about, read about, or seen in real life. You know you are as great as any one of them, possibly greater.
And God is the greatest. Thank you, God, for being in me, through me, and all around me. You realize in this the value of your time, and you focus your attention on things that get you closer to where you wish to be. You realize to take control of your life and your destiny requires responsibility. You now choose to accept responsibility for your life. You pledge to give your time, talent, energy, and money to accomplish